Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. It is episode number 156. We are wearing black in mourning of Inter Miami after what felt something like a murder last night. That's going to be the topic of this episode. Inter Miami loses 4-1 to Orlando City. I rewatched the game. I have my detailed notes. We're going to talk about what went wrong. Some performances not as bad as I originally thought. Some exactly as bad as I originally thought. We're going to talk about all of it, and we'll give out awards and all that good stuff. But before all of that, I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur. How are you feeling tonight, my man?
By the way, for anyone watching on YouTube, this was not planned. We both didn't decide to wear black just because of Inter Miami's result yesterday. It was a coincidence. I think it reflects our mood from yesterday's game, and honestly, it's appropriate. So here we are. What can you even ask me? I feel dejected after that game, more disappointed than anything else. I think this might be a different conversation, and we may not be criticizing Javier Mascherano as much.
Oh,
because
no,
I
we
think
will.
my criticism...
I feel much different than I did last night.
My criticism largely falls on the players, but I'm sure we're going to get into it soon. How are you feeling?
I rewatched that game today, so maybe that explains how I'm feeling.
Good for you for putting yourself through that torture.
Frustrated,
I struggled.
frustrated, angry. But sometimes frustrated and angry is the best way to get your thoughts out. I certainly felt better after talking about it last night, and I'm sure I will feel better about it after talking about it today. Before we get into the game, I think the only thing to mention is that Messi he did individual training on Saturday. He's expected to do team training with the team this week, so we should expect him to be back healthy. And whether he plays on Saturday against the LA Galaxy or not, I think is just a matter of if he feels like he wants to push it, if he's ready to play 90 minutes, if he wants to play 15 minutes off the bench. But I am extraordinarily confident that he will be available for Tigres the following Wednesday. So Lionel Messi, in terms of his health, hamstring, etc., on a good path, has not missed much time.
I swear he can't be back sooner because we thought we could do without him. Apparently not. Whenever he leaves, Inter Miami has one result that's just a complete blowout. Hopefully it's not before long that he's back. That's about it. We need Messi back as soon as possible.
Cynical says, it's all about the popcorn. I will say, right as we were getting to score predictions yesterday, I just got this real big knot in my stomach that something bad was about to happen. Okay, let's just get into it because I think there's a lot of moments that we should be breaking down, and it starts in the second minute when Luis Muriel puts Orlando City up 1-0. Just to recap for everyone, it's kind of a sloppy turnover by Jordi Alba, and because it's Inter Miami trying to push the ball forward, Jordi Alba in the midfield turns it over. We are not well structured defensively. The ball goes to Martin Ojeda. Busquets steps up to him, but Ojeda dummies him, then makes the run. Busquets is then out of the play because he's not going to keep up with Ojeda. Instead, it's Luis Muriel who receives it, plays the dump off to Ojeda, makes the run past Maxi Falcon, receives it back, and then puts it between the legs of Oscar Ustari. And that was a pretty poor start, if I have to admit it.
You actually went further back into the build-up play than I thought you would, but there was so much wrong with that in terms of Inter Miami's preparedness to deal with it, the formation, the structure, that good for you on going that far back. For me, I think the biggest issue is towards the end when Maxi Falcon almost inexplicably moves forward to defend on the front foot against, I think it was Muriel or Ojeda, perhaps, but doesn't go far enough to block him out. It's almost half and half. So there's enough space for Muriel to just push the ball past him and then run into the space. And then Maxi Falcon, when he's retreating back, is on the wrong side of Muriel. Ian Frey is trying to defend it a little bit as well, but he's reacting after the fact.
It's not on Ian Frey. For anyone that looked at Ian Frey in that play,
not.
He is making sort of a last man
exactly.
challenge
He's
because
reacting
it's a desperate
after
situation.
the fact.
But
and
that
he's
was on
trying
Maxi
to salvage
Falcon.
something. But Maxi Falcon
Sorry, go ahead.
completely. Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I think this is going to be a lot of this episode where both of us are just trying to get our emotions out. But Maxi Falcon just completely changes up the position and structure of the defense. Ian Frey tries to salvage something, is not able to. And then Muriel bullies Ian Frey a little bit, but he bullied the entire backline all of 90 minutes last game. And it was a struggle to watch and a sign of what was to come for the next hour and a half. Very poor start.
Yeah, just to stick on that play for a minute, I think there was a lot of mistakes, but I think ultimately the goal goes to Maxi Falcon. He is dummied, but not dummied. He steps up to Luis Muriel. He recovers to gain ground, but then he just leaves space for Muriel when he should have played much tighter to Luis Muriel. If you take it a frame or two back, you can see Maxi Falcon is about half a yard from Luis Muriel. When the ball arrives to Muriel, he takes a nice touch and then creates space for himself, and then Ian Frey just kind of blitzes into the picture at the last second trying to make a desperate challenge. That half a yard of space is created because Falcon has positioned himself terribly while trying to recover. He gives Luis Muriel way too much space. Muriel, well, listen, I made fun of him in the pregame show yesterday, and he had an absolute stunning performance. He was awesome. But he makes the perfect touch. And then Ustari, I don't want to blame a goalkeeper for the ball going through his legs, but I did think his reaction was really poor. He did not make himself big. He did not put himself in a position to save almost any shot that wasn't going to hit him. He did, the arms were in, hands were at his chest. He doesn't get low. I didn't think Oscar Ustari handled the situation well or reacted well, but it's a shot through his legs, so certainly letting the player get into that position.
I have a few thoughts on. I have a few thoughts on Ustari, so maybe we can keep him for the awards.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to him. We'll come back to him in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then Jordi Alba had a turnover to start this whole play, and I thought this was indicative of a lot of poor situations Inter Miami had, where one of their better players turned the ball over in a situation that kept our back line disorganized, and we were not in a position to recover. And so, again, as you're talking about sort of the archetype for what went wrong throughout this game, that was, I think, something to really pay attention to. And again, Maxi Falcon with some pretty poor positioning in the 4th minute that leads to a nice Angulo cross that Muriel gets his head to, but he heads it right at Ustari. But then all was fine and dandy in the 5th minute because Yannick Bright scored his first professional goal on a beautiful volley. The play starts with Rodrigo de Paul. I thought this was also kind of characteristic of the rest of the game. Rodrigo de Paul tries to put a cross in. It gets deflected. It just sort of ends up at Talasco Segovia, who kind of just wails it in. It gets headed away, and then Yannick Bright has a beautiful ball to put the ball in the back of the net and make it 1-1. But it was not planned by either de Paul or Segovia. It just kind of bounced to Yannick Bright. And I do want to stop for a second and congratulate him because his game has developed so much over the last year for him to become a goal scorer. I think this has sort of been trending in this direction, and it finally broke through, and so I'm very proud of him and very happy for him. And I want to have at least some positive thing to take away from this game.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll develop into that 6 who gets the goals as well, but he does seem to have a long shot on him, clearly, from yesterday's goal. But he's been trending towards the direction of becoming more of a 8 who gets involved in the build-up, and I think he can play a box-to-box midfielder as well for another team, maybe.
Well, let's not talk about him.
Congratulations to him. Yeah, congratulations to him. I think he was the only saving grace. I would have given him the saving grace award. But I think he was phenomenal. The only good thing about that game yesterday. And honestly, that goal also was kind of a fluke. Inter Miami didn't necessarily intend to create that goal. The pattern of play was sort of bouncing around, and it landed nicely for Yannick Bright, who finished it off with aplomb. But other than that, I think Inter Miami was struggling to create those chances. But at that moment, I thought we're back in it. And much like the Pumas game, I felt Inter Miami started poorly, but maybe that goal would galvanize us and take us into the second half to just take the game to Orlando and maybe get a result here. Boy, I was wrong.
It did not turn the temperature down for this game. I thought Orlando City had a number of nice opportunities in the aftermath of that moment. In the 8th minute, Alex Freeman had an excellent through ball to Martin Ojeda. I think if you watch the buildup of that play, Rodrigo de Paul gets caught sleeping. I will give him a little bit of credit for running back and making it a difficult chance on goal, but it's still Ojeda putting the ball. He ends up shooting into the side netting. The 20th minute, Falcon was absolutely caught sleeping, and Orlando goes over the top. This is the moment that Ustari comes out to try and kick the ball away. He's sort of sweeping it. He kicks it right at Luis Muriel, who puts it what looks like on target to give them a 2-1 lead. Then it just drifts and drifts and drifts, and luckily for Ustari, it hits the side netting, but a terrible moment for Ustari, and maybe something we'll come back to when we get to awards. And that was basically like the temperature of the first half. Segovia had a nice shot in the near post right before halftime. But for the most part, it was Orlando City creating some opportunities in transition and doing a good job, and Inter Miami kind of struggling to create much of anything.
The first half wasn't as bad as the second half. I
No, it
don't think
wasn't.
we had
No, it wasn't.
clear-cut opportunities, but Orlando City still showed they were playing with a lot of bite. And you could sense that our players were not up for the game because, and we can talk about this more so in the context of the second half when I thought it was a lot more evident, but Orlando was a lot more physical. They were getting to the second balls quicker. They just seemed sharper on the ball. They knew what their patterns of play were going to be. They were very much harming Inter Miami through their interchangeable plays off the ball. Muriel was popping up in different directions. Ojeda was all over the pitch, sometimes on the right, sometimes centrally. But one thing that stood out to me was the physicality of it, because it almost felt like Inter Miami wasn't ready for what came their way. And we were getting bullied at times, not as much in the first half, but when the second half started, you could see that Inter Miami was not one step, not two steps, but 3 steps behind Orlando, and they were just constantly on top of us.
Yeah, we'll talk about why that happened when we get to some of the sort of structural decisions Inter Miami made in this game. But just to keep moving on, I'll be honest, I was less impressed with the first half on the rewatch than I was live. But I do agree with you, the second half was even worse. And it happens in the 50th minute. Orlando City gets the second goal of the game. It's a corner kick for Orlando. He goes, I think it's Ojeda. He goes short to Muriel. Jordi Alba defends it. He does a half-decent job in terms of dispossessing Muriel for a second, but no one's in a position to clean it up. So Muriel recovers. Jordi Alba a little bit off balance, isn't able to be physical at that point. It's a very narrow angled shot from Muriel, sort of at the edge of the 6-yard box, a little bit inside. Tight angle from that left side of the field, but he puts it past Ustari. And again, I thought Ustari did a really poor job of making himself big.
Of course, I think the blame largely lies on Jordi Alba because he won the ball and then he lost the ball. Physically, just not as demanding as you need to be, because once you've taken the ball off Muriel, just boot it out. And the fact that Muriel was able to get it back was slightly worrying for me.
Yeah,
but again,
I will say that is the type of goal that happens sometimes. Jordi Alba sort of pulls himself off balance to try and dislodge the ball from Muriel. He's not in a position to recover. Muriel is, and there was no teammate coming to clear it. So it's one of those things that happens and you work on in training, but I don't think it's a catastrophic error. And obviously you want Jordi Alba to do better, but it's not something I'm going to sort of hold against him for very long. I think Ustari has more blame on this. It's a very tight angle.
Ustari's positioning was very confusing.
It's not the positioning.
Because it
it's
felt
the reaction.
I don't know if it's the reaction to the positioning, because I think so. Okay, let me explain myself, then you can chime in with this. Because for me, I think Muriel was in a very tight angle to score a goal from there, but it just seemed so easy for him to almost pass it into the net. Well, he shot it in, but for me, I thought it was Ustari's angles that were completely wrong. And then, of course, his reaction time wasn't great either. But you just didn't look ready for this game.
Well, I noticed on all three of these goals that I think Ustari has some real blame in, especially the first two. The hands are like at his chest. And when you're so close to the shot, you know you're not going to have time to react to it. So the answer is to make yourself as big as possible. And he doesn't do that. So again, I think that's the type of shot that you see goalkeepers all the time. They stick that outside foot a foot out, so that if it is a low ball into that far corner, their foot's there to make the save. And Ustari, he doesn't make himself big. So I don't want to say Ustari, it was like, it's not a goal that I would blame on Ustari necessarily, but it was another one that I thought he didn't do well on. And listen, he's been out for like 2.5 weeks. It's not like he's been out for 6 months. So the rustiness factor, I think, is a little bit of a
overblown,
poor excuse. Yeah. There was another golden opportunity in the 54th minute that Ustari does make a really nice save on. It's Angulo that I think takes the shot. No, sorry, it's Ojeda that takes the shot. Ustari makes the save, but he palms it right back to Ojeda, who again has another one-on-one shot with the keeper, and he skies it. But it was one of 3 nice saves that I think Ustari had, but on 2 of them he kind of pushed it right back to the attacking player, and it came back to bite them for that 4th goal. The 3rd goal happens in the 58th minute. I'm sorry, do you want to stop on that one for?
No, not really.
Okay. Okay. 58th minute.
Going. There's a lot more to talk about.
I know. 58th minute. Miami was slow to get back defensively after a set piece. They had a set piece opportunity. Orlando hits quickly. Muriel gets it forward to Martin Ojeda. Busquets was the last man, and if you're putting Busquets against Martin Ojeda in a transition situation, you would expect them to get a shot off. Ojeda goes really narrow into that near post. This one absolutely is on Ustari, who lets it sneak past him on the near post. And that was basically the ballgame.
That was very poor. Reminiscent of what happened in that last game, where I think that 3rd goal just killed it for Inter Miami, because up until then, us as fans had some hope that Inter Miami would get something back, and maybe a goal there could have changed the tide for Inter Miami. But again, a poor goalkeeping error, but you don't set him up well by allowing that transition to happen. Sergio Busquets 1-on-1 with Martin Ojeda doesn't make any sense to me, but it was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah. There was a nice save by Ustari on an Angulo shot in the 62nd minute. I thought there was a really terrible moment from Lujan in the 65th minute right after he comes on. And I had to get that in there. But it was one of their most dangerous opportunities, and Bright and Frey had to sort of desperately recover. And it was also a sign that just because they went up 3-1 did not mean they took their foot off the gas. I did think Inter Miami made some adjustments. They went to a back 3. They gained a little bit of control into the game. But as they got desperate late, Orlando City was able to get an extra goal. This one on Kremaski, I would say. Maybe, and Noah Allen, I guess. 88th minute. It's a transition opportunity. Pasalic is 3 yards behind Noah Allen. Like, Noah Allen clearly thinks he's offsides, but on the other side of the field, Kremaski's keeping him onsides. And he gets a one-on-one with Ustari. Ustari makes the save, but again, it goes right back to Pasalic. And he takes a step going the other way, curls it around into that far corner, and it's a true beatdown. And we get to congratulate Orlando City fans for their team's performance and, remind them that they still smell bad.
Is that what we've become, taking cheap shots at Orlando after they've absolutely dominated us at football for 2 games back-to-back in the MLS? Oh dear. It was a thorough domination, as I said. 21 goals, 7 goals with clear-cut opportunities and key opportunities for them, compared to Inter Miami's 1 big chance. I think they had some 2.69 XG, but forget about the stats. You could just see the game was completely Orlando playing in the front foot, taking the game to Inter Miami, and Inter Miami always retreating, playing in the back foot. The defenders were constantly under pressure. The transition completely killed us. The pressing was very difficult to get out of. There were so many structural issues that we faced during that entire game, and we just never showed up. And the deserved winners were Orlando, and it was very, very difficult to swallow.
All right, let's talk about Orlando for a minute, because I think now we're on like threat watch for them. I don't want to play them in the Leagues Cup semifinal. I don't want to play them in the MLS Cup playoffs. They are athletic. They are clicking. They have plenty of guys that can hurt you across that front line. Their midfield is athletic and physical. Their goalkeeper in pretty good form. I should have mentioned our best chance of the second half came when Luis Suarez shot from halfway in the midfield. And it was a really nice shot. I mean,
that was a 0.69 XG.
Yeah. That was it for Inter Miami in the second half. I mean, there was no comeback. There was no fight. There was a moment where Fafa Picault and Baltasar Rodriguez have an opportunity. They bounce into each other and waste it. So it was just a disaster. Let's talk about Orlando.
It was really bad.
They're a threat. I don't want to play them this season, even with Messi.
For me, what stood out the most, that's what I said in the post-game reaction yesterday. They seem to have our number. They absolutely know how to beat this Inter Miami team. For me, what stood out the most was the physicality with which they played. They obviously have the talent up top. They have players who are constantly creating opportunities, are goal dangerous in Ojeda, in Pasalic. But yesterday, you gave Luis Muriel a offering on a platter, and he took it with both hands. He was bullying our back line. The physicality of it was just completely dominant and caught Inter Miami players sleeping. The pressing was very good. The structure was very good, and they knew exactly what they needed to do to get that result. I think across the three stages of the game, the three phases of the game, as you call it, defense, midfield, forward line, first phase, second phase, third phase, they were the better team. So congratulations to them. They had a game plan and they executed it to perfection.
Yeah, Luis Muriel was unbelievable. I mean, I know he had 2 goals, but even beyond that, his ability to set his teammates up for opportunities, I thought was outstanding. He had a couple that ended up not turning into goals, but that like were really high quality chances. He had one to Pasalic that I think Pasalic was like 3 inches offsides for. He ends up hitting the post anyways. Muriel was fantastic in that game. And then Martin Ojeda, that's the best I've ever seen him play. Like, he was everywhere, making darting runs, just abusing Sergio Busquets. We're going to talk about how that matchup happens so frequently, but every single time Busquets went to sort of occupy the same spaces, Ojeda made a darting run, and it was Muriel or it was Pasalic that just found him and created a dangerous opportunity. Those two, man, they had incredible games, and when we're going to put out a stinker, they're going to create a ton of offense. So I want to give those two credit, and I hope they just play the best game of their lives, and we never see that again.
Yeah, I hope if we ever see them again, Inter Miami's winning 7-0, because they have the bragging rights. So here's the thing. For me, the most disappointing aspect of that game was not the fact that we lost to an Orlando team, but we didn't show any fight. This is 2 games in a row against Orlando where we've been completely blown away, with Messi, without Messi. It wasn't even competitive. So you can say that Inter Miami is the more talented team, has the more quality, but at the end of the day, when it comes to performing, football is all about getting the physicality base and the foundation in place, and then you build your talent from there. Orlando is definitely not a more talented team than Inter Miami, but they showed that they had the hunger and the desire to go out and compete and win everything. And for me, that was almost a damning indictment to where this team is under Javier Mascherano, where they need to get their heads up. Because if you go like that against a team in the playoffs, regardless of whether it's Orlando or not, you're not going to win. That was very poor. And whether it's fatigue, whether it's players being overplayed, whether it's structure, there's no excuse for not having the fight in the pitch. I know Noah Allen, Yannick Bright, Ian Frey, I think were some of the better players on the pitch, but Maxi Falcon looked out of his depth.
Yeah.
Ustari
Okay.
looked out of
I'm
his
gonna
depth.
stop. Because you're shifting to a different point, and I want to stay on what you just
I
said
was
about
going on a
like
rant.
fight. I know. Okay. So here's the thing: fight is oftentimes like it feels like you put it with second balls. It feels like how hard you go into challenges. It feels like how many headers you win and stuff like that. But the truth is that Orlando City team is significantly more athletic than the Inter Miami team we had out last night. Rodrigo De Paul is very talented, but he's not like a superstar athlete. Busquets, I thought, was abused plenty of times. Maxi Falcon, Segovia, Suarez. Like, this is not an athletic team through the spine. And so if you are going to bring a ton of athleticism and then you have a little bit of quality up front, like all of a sudden you're getting to all the second balls, but then you're converting them into real chances. And it looks like Inter Miami just has no answer for the physicality and athleticism of the game. And that looks like fight. I didn't think on the rewatch that was actually that big of a factor. I think it was much more structural. And we'll get to that in a minute. But I did want to stop you there because I felt like you were getting to a different point. I did want to say that. Go ahead. You're muted.
I forgot what my second point was. I was going to say something about being overplayed or outplayed, but maybe I'll come back to me. So I think I put my point across well enough.
Yeah, the other thing I want to say before we move into what Inter Miami tried to do in this game is I thought the environment was really good and fun. Like I thought the first half was a really fun
First one
game.
was fun.
And obviously the second half not as fun. I really liked that it felt like a really big rivalry. I thought Orlando City had a couple really hard tackles. Ian Frey at the end of the half by Robin Janssen got tackled pretty hard. Cesar Araujo had a handball, but like he stopped Rodrigo De Paul from advancing in a pivotal moment. Like they were doing the sort of cheeky's not even the right word, frustrating, angry stuff that you do to try and win a rivalry game. And so in that sense, I did think Orlando City did bring like a little bit of extra oomph to this game. But I also think they try and play that way like frequently. So I don't know. It was a fun game until halftime.
I genuinely thought somebody was going to get red carded in the second half with the way things were going. It was getting feisty, it was getting physical, and I enjoy that aspect of the game. So for me, it was enjoyable up until we decided to stop competing and just got hammered. So I agree. The first half was fun. It was definitely a derby. And then the second half, the other team just rolled us over.
Okay, let's get into what Miami did, or at least tried to do in this game, because I was rewatching the game today and I was taking notes, and the same issue arrived over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So it was clearly the game plan. If you watched that game, you saw Ian Frey play as like a right midfielder. He was almost never even with the back line. And that was clearly by design. The idea for the team was we're going to get our fullbacks high up the pitch. We're going to be an offensive threat. We're going to have an offensive posture. We're going to try and score goals. And in order to counter that, they were going to drop their two defensive midfielders, Busquets and Yannick Bright, into the back line to cover when necessary. And I thought it was terribly executed, and they left gaping holes because the defensive midfielders just did not do an effective job of getting back into position where they were supposed to be. And you know what it looked like to me? Preseason game number 1 of a team trying to learn a new system where our midfielders just did not and were not able to get back with the awareness, with the midfielders making the run, with the wingers trying to cut inside. They just weren't ready for that. And it looked disastrous because of that. And then our center backs also looked bad because they were not in spaces that they probably should have been occupying, and or they were expecting the midfield to occupy, but they weren't. And so they probably should have had responsibility to cover for them, and they weren't covering for them effectively. And so there was just gaping holes at the back line of our defense, and it was intentional. We wanted our fullbacks to play high, especially Ian Frey. But our solution to cover was to drop Busquets into the back line, and then Martin Ojeda would just go run to Busquets. Busquets would have responsibility for him, but then he would just make these darting runs that Busquets had no business trying to handle, especially when you take a defensive midfielder out of the midfield to try and prevent the pass from being accurate or from, having a free reign at the pass. So yeah, it was really ugly. It was really ugly. We basically either vacated our defensive midfield area or we were short numbers on the back line. And then I also thought that was compiled by a really poor performance by Maxi Falcon.
So for me, I don't have any issue with Javier Mascherano pushing the fullbacks up higher, because the intention behind that is to take the game to Orlando to be offensively expansive and adventurous. And I think it makes for the gameplay that Inter Miami, or play style that Inter Miami is suited to. The issue for me is by having Sergio Busquets fall into that three-man backline and try to
It was
protect
not a three-man backline. I want to be clear. That's not what was happening.
But for him to try and protect the backline and fall in place and cover the spaces when Orlando was on the ball, he's not suited to that. His ability is on the ball. So if you want to build up with him in the backline and splitting the center backs and taking that central role when Inter Miami is on the ball, he's very good at that. And he could have done a really good job of that if we were constantly in possession. But I think the responsibility for that job should have been Yannick Bright's. And that is an instructional issue where Javier Mascherano told Sergio Busquets to fulfill that role that you're talking about and not Yannick Bright. It got compounded by the fact that our forward line did not execute the plan either. So it wasn't just the back line constantly under pressure, because you could see that Sergio Busquets was struggling to... His head was on a swivel because he had Ojeda making the runs in behind. He had Luis Muriel making the runs in behind, and he couldn't mark everyone out. And the spacing was all over the place. Maxi Falcon was stepping up when he shouldn't have. It was just a bit of a mess. Fine. You concede those opportunities. But then if you push your fullbacks up so high, you want to take your opportunities and build up, and you want to be able to have something on the offense that accounts for your lack of defensive discipline. But I think that wasn't even the case, because our offensive line was probably just as bad as our defensive structure, where there were no patterns of play either.
I want to be clear. It was not Busquets dropping into the back line as he's done before and making it a back three. Busquets and sometimes Yannick Bright were replacing the fullback. So they were going to that outside and trying to keep something of a four-man back line when the fullback pushed up. And it was Ian Frey more often than not, and it was Busquets trying to cover for him. And by doing that, you're taking Busquets out of a position to be a facilitator for your offense. And so you're actually hurting yourself offensively and creating a weakness defensively. And that was the game plan, at least for the first half. And they just, like, Orlando City found it immediately, exposed it immediately, and there was nothing Inter Miami could do about it. And even when they did get the ball back, they had lost their facilitator in the midfield, so they were struggling to even progress the ball effectively.
I honestly didn't see Sergio Busquets push into that right-back role whenever Ian Frey was vacating it. So maybe you've clocked something that I haven't. But for me, for that first goal especially, Sergio Busquets was in the center. He got his head turned because Ojeda just walked past him. And then the defensive issue started.
Right.
Yeah. But I do think there was definitely a spacing issue. There was definitely a communication issue. I'll believe you that Sergio Busquets was falling back in that right back spot. And if that's the case, then I don't think this was the game for that, because obviously we conceded 4 goals.
No, it's never the game. It's never the game for that. It is never the game for that. And I think the big thing is because, as you mentioned, I think we like an offensive posture. I think we want our fullbacks to have the freedom to get forward. One thing I will say is Ian Frey didn't feel like he had freedom to get forward. It felt like his job was to be forward. But again, you can't take Busquets out of the central part of the pitch ever and expect your team to still continue to be able to progress the ball as you normally do. We really struggle with that aspect of the game. I thought it was because Busquets was vacating those areas relatively frequently. And if it wasn't Busquets, it was Yannick Bright on the other side. You compile that with a really poor game from Maxi Falcon, and it just looked like it was 4 players in the middle, Noah Allen, Maxi Falcon, Yannick Bright, and Busquets in front of him, that were trying some sort of defensive tactic and wrinkle that they had never done before They were not good at it. They didn't understand how they were supposed to position each other. And ultimately, Inter Miami was leaving gaping holes open that Orlando City took definite advantage of.
Yep. Showed with the scoreline.
You want to get to awards and stop talking about this game?
Yes, please. Can we put this behind us already? We didn't talk much about Orlando or Javier Mascherano substitutions. But honestly, yeah, sure.
Well, it didn't make a difference. The first Cubs came in the 64th minute. The game was already 3-1 and sort of out of control at that point. I will say those first subs came in. Maxi Falcon came out for Gonzalo Lujan, and they switched to a back three. Segovia also came out. Fafa went in. They were better defensively, but they also had...
For 5 minutes.
No. Well, Gonzalo Lujan comes in the 64th minute. If you guys go rewatch this game, in the 65th minute, they have an opportunity in transition. And if you just watch Gonzalo Lujan on that play, it's so unbelievably bad. It's his first action of the game. He steps up 15 yards outside of the back line to try and sort of do something, have a defensive action up the field to try and create something. But he's 5 yards away from the player. Like, he's not even close to being able to get there in time because he's not athletic enough. And then it's dummied past him. Both the guy he was trying to go stop and the guy who receives the ball within half a second have turned him and are 5 yards past him. And for no reason, he just ran 20 yards up the field and then turned around and chased everyone 20 yards back. Yannick Bright and Ian Frey have to make sort of a desperate challenge to prevent it from becoming something. It was really bad. And I just watching that thinking, someone's going to tell me that Gonzalo Lujan had a good game in this game, and I can't. So, 65th minute, go watch it. Lujan, just terrible. Kramaski went to right back. He was, or I guess it was sort of a right wing back. He was responsible for keeping Pasalic onside for that fourth goal. That's sort of not something I'm going to put too much blame on him for. He's not a right back. He's not supposed to be a professional level right back at this point.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing happens. I thought Redondo had some really poor moments in his 6 minutes of action. And I didn't notice much from Baltasar, except he ran into...
By the way, Francisco brings this up, and I don't know if you want to have a conversation about it, but I just want to at least say it on the record. I didn't like how Suarez remonstrated against Fafa Pico. You've got Allende doing all sorts of stuff on that pitch, just completely messing up attacks, not a peep from the front line. And it's not in good taste. When your team is losing 4-1 and you start fighting on the pitch against your other attacker who's just come on and is at least trying to do something. For me, that was really poor. And I just didn't like it. It was in really bad taste for me. And it left a really poor taste in my mouth.
I don't know. Messi does that every single game to Allende. So
no,
I think that happens all the time.
It's not to that level. It's not to that level. You should have seen the way he was remonstrating, not once, not twice. Because as soon as that happened, I started noticing Suarez every time Fafa was on the ball. And you should have, his hands would always go up. He'd start slapping his thighs. It was just really poor. And Messi never does that as extravagantly or as openly. And yeah. It wasn't great. Anyways, okay. I don't want to talk much about Suarez.
Okay, let's get to awards then. I go first this time. I'll be honest, I thought there was actually 3.5 players that had good performances in this game on the rewatch. I would have only said Yannick Bright. I came up with 3.5 pretty solid performances in this game, but certainly none of them were better than Yannick Bright, who gets the goal. I thought he did a lot of the things defensively that he does in terms of ball winning. He also got lost a couple times trying to cover that fullback position, and it didn't look good, was taken out of position. But in a game where we got crushed, to score the goal and to be at least a positive influence was worthy of getting Heron in the match. So I'm giving it to Yannick Bright. By the way, I should stop before we continue. After every game, we give out 6 awards. Heron the match, a Heron that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. Because you went first last time, I'm going first this time. It's Yannick Bright, Heron the match.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I don't have any complaints with it. I don't think it was particularly great as a performance from him over the course of 90 minutes. He had a couple of poor moments, couple of really good moments, but that goal was fantastic. It was beautiful, and it gave us a glimmer of hope. And just for that, I think he deserves this award. Honestly, he may have been the best player on the pitch across the board. Or everyone had poor moments.
For Inter Miami, maybe.
Yeah.
Inter Miami,
For Inter Miami, not for. Oh no, not for no, absolutely not. This is not an Orlando podcast, so I'm not even going to consider their players. For Inter Miami,
Fair.
Yannick Bright in pink was the best player on that pitch, and he also had an average performance. So that just goes to show how poor everyone was. I agree with you. Nothing more to say on that. Hopefully, this is the start of something new for Yannick Bright and more to come in terms of goals.
He's been doing this all season where he's just gotten better at being really in higher positions, better ball progression. And so you could tell the assists, the goals, if he keeps taking progressive steps like this, they're going to come. Because as a midfielder, if you just find yourself in the right position, you're going to have opportunities. I've noticed a couple opportunities he was in position to create an assist or to have an assist, create an opportunity for someone else. And he finally gets the breakthrough on the goal. Like, I think we're going to end up, if Yannick Bright, signs that 5-year extension, I think we're going to end up in a place where he gets 5 goals, 5 assists a year, and is also a defensive monster. I think that's there for him, and I would be a big fan of that happening. Okay, so I got the easy job. You get the hard job. Out of all of the performances we saw last night, who did you think was doing the wrong thing, which is the nature of our second award, the heron that flew north?
Honestly, it could be 9 players. Pick whoever you want, and I could make a case for them. But for me, I thought the one who had probably the worst performance in pink so far for him is Maxi Falcon. He probably put in as bad a performance as Lujan ever has. I really did not like what I saw from him. He looked out of his depth completely. I thought the system that you mentioned did not work for him. He felt out of place. It looked like his IQ was just completely busted. And he was making runs in ways that he was pushing up when he didn't need to. He was leaving gaps when he didn't need to. He was bullied by Muriel. He was bullied by Ojeda. I thought a really poor performance from him overall. Culpable for that first goal. Didn't do much in terms of... I thought he put in one tackle that was really good against Muriel.
That was a 42nd minute against Anguilla.
Yeah. And I thought that was a really good tackle. And perhaps that could have taken his game up a level. But after that, it was all downhill from there. I didn't think he was particularly good. And for me, the defensive line overall was quite poor. But he exacerbated everything that happened wrong for this Inter Miami team in this game. So Maxi Falcon flew north and took the whole flock with him.
Yeah, I think you could make a case for 4 or 5 players.
Yeah,
Maxi Falcon is certainly one of them. Horrendous performance. He's not that athletic, and so if you're not going to be a good athlete and quick, you have to be really smart about your positioning, and he was very dumb about his positioning in this game. In defense of Maxi, I thought Noah Allen was much better in this game, but I think part of it was because they asked Maxi Falcon to do a lot. He was asked to cover a lot of space. The game plan was clearly to have Ian Frey high up the field. Maxi Falcon was responsible for covering that, especially in sort of transition opportunities. He did not handle it at all. At all. But he was also asked to do something that's very hard, and I don't know if it's really within his player profile to handle. So, poor performance. And I think it should have been some other player out there trying to do that, not him. So, poor, but also I think set up to fail a little bit. But also, again, very poor. So, yeah.
All right. Give me your first award.
Before we get to the rest of them. Did you go mostly players that had bad performances or players that had sort of okay performances?
Bad performances.
Okay. Same. My first... actually, no, I didn't. My first one's not. My first award is the first law of motion.
The first law of motion. What's the first law of motion? Every action has an equal and
Nailed it.
Is that the one?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, this is a positive award. That's good to know. Ian Frey. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Is that the law?
Yes.
And Ian Frey was going forward. So the action was obviously that someone else would go in the other direction. He had a decent game, I guess. That's why you give it to Ian Frey. There you go. Thank you.
I actually thought Ian Frey was solid in this game.
He did what he was asked to do.
He was. I think that people are going to downgrade him because there was a lot of times where danger happened from that side of the pitch, but it was clearly part of the structure, part of the game plan for him to play high up the field. And the reason I've given it this award is because if you're going to play an attacking wingback and you're going to ask him to play really high up, you need to have a better solution on the other side to sort of handle the defensive issues you're going to create like that than they had in this game. If you're going to put Ian Frey on the field as a general fullback, he's going to play deeper. He's going to have a deeper position generally, and you would have stopped a lot of those balls over the top. It was clear that he was trying to take up a high spot on the field. They were intentionally leaving that spot in behind. And we talked about Maxi Falcon. There was a couple times where Ian Frey went back and made really nice defensive sort of saving moments. Even on Angulo, who there was a moment. I want to get the exact minute. It was.
I remember what you're referring to. But while you look for the moment, I think Ian Frey generally had a very positive performance.
It was the 49th minute. There's a breakaway for Angulo where it's a foot race between him and Ian Frey. And Ian Frey's not fast enough to keep up with Angulo. Angulo's a burner. But as soon as he gets beat,
he recovers.
He just changes his angle. He recovers and he forces the ball out. I mean, it was a beautiful recovery. And it was the type of thing that Chalawigan couldn't just never, ever, ever do.
Yeah, never.
So and he did that. He had another moment, that 65th moment that I mentioned with Lujan, where he has a nice recovery as well. Listen, he didn't do the X factor things we wanted on offense. Obviously, no one did. But I think he doesn't come away from this game feeling bad about himself.
I think what he was asked to do was slightly overcooked in terms of how he should have played. If he'd just been allowed to play his natural game, Inter could have had a lot more positive momentum going forward and going backward as well. I agree with you. One of the few good performances on the pitch. Maybe we're a little bit biased, but the reason people will criticize Ian Frey is because he was letting the opposition attackers in behind very easily. Angulo, of course, we know how much pace he has, but as you said, it was by design and it wasn't his responsibility to stop Angulo. And if you look at the game in that sense, I think Ian Frey had a very positive game, and you let him play the natural possession game that he likes to play, natural game where he can defend backwards, move forward and get involved. He would be much better.
Bizrat's informing us that it's actually the third law of motion. And if that's the case, I will just say I was never good at science.
We have a podcast in the Drive Pink Dialogue. There's a reason we don't work for NASA or an engineering company. None of us have the capacity to do that. So
you can just cross off first and change it to third. My apologies.
The law of inertia works the same way. I think. We'll make it work.
We're going to move on real quick.
Because
we don't need to continue making ourselves sound like knuckleheads. Again, I thought Ian Frey, he was fine in this game and maybe even like slightly above average. And not a lot of players could say that. So, okay, that's my award. What are you going with first?
So my first award is the second law of motion. No, my first award is the Brandenburg. I don't even know what the second law of motion is. My first award is the Brandenburg Gate Award.
I should know what this is. What? Okay, I don't know what it is. I'm gonna guess it's Ustari because it's a gate that protects things, and it's been opened, and something in Germany, and he was open for giving in to goals in this game.
Listen, it's a victory gate, as Sean points out, but that's not the intention behind this award. We obviously interpret the awards as and how we want to, but the Brandenburg Gate is a gate in Berlin, I think, erected in the 18th and 18th century. But the point is, it's one of the most famous gates in the world, where a lot of people visit it daily, yearly, and the footfall is insane. Oscar Ustari decided yesterday that he's going to beat the Brandenburg Gate in terms of how open it's going to be for tourists. And the tourists being the Orlando City players. They had the run of that goal yesterday, and it was really bad to watch. He had, I think, 2 decent saves, maybe 2.5. But other than that, he just kept kicking the ball back to the Orlando players to be like, there you go see the sights, enjoy yourself. Luis Muriel tried to Luis Muriel tried to get a goal. I know, thank you. Tried to score twice. I've never seen a goalkeeper almost get caught out twice. Well, to his credit, the other goalkeeper also got caught out once, so it wasn't like he was. They
tried a third time too in the second half. I think it was Pasalic that tried from.
But it could have been very embarrassing for Ustari yesterday. I don't think he was ready to start that game. I think Rocco Rios should have started.
No. I'm not giving him a pass like that. He made some saves that showed he had the quickness. He made some runs to sweep that showed his hamstring wasn't bothering him. He just had a very bad game. He was been out for like 3 weeks. It's not like he's been out for 4 months and the sort of rustiness is kicking in and lack of, like, he's not been out long enough to have completely lost everything. And also he showed in that game he was healthy enough to do some things. There's no excuse about not starting him. He's your number one. You chose for him to be your number one. That's fine. He is clearly better than Rocco. I'm sorry. I know Rocco's had some nice games in the Leagues Cup, but in the hierarchy of things, Ustari's ahead of him. And so if you're the goalkeeper, you don't come off the bench for 15 minutes to try and get back into it. You start the game. So starting Ustari was the right decision. There's no doubt about that in my head. He just played really poorly. For those that aren't frequently on Twitter, me and Franco Panizzo are having actively a back and forth about the Drake Calendar Oscar Ustari conversation, and ironic that Ustari had a terrible game in the middle of that, as he sort of surprises us. I don't think any of us expected him to start that game. He had a save, and I want to give him credit. He had a really nice save in the 35th minute where he goes down low to his left on a header. It's a set piece header, and it's hit hard and low, and he goes down and he pushes it away into safety. He had 2 other nice saves that you would have thought were nice saves because they were one-on-one, except the problem is he palmed it right back to the guy who shot it, and they immediately got another shot. One of them turned into a goal. So it's like, it is a reaction save. It is tough. But at the same time, you can't get credit for making a nice save if the ball goes right back to the guy who shot it and he just takes another shot and scores a goal. I can't give you credit for that. So then you talked about the turnovers. I thought all 3 of the first 3 goals he should have done better on. The third one is just like one of the goals you are absolutely responsible for. You can't let that happen. And then we talked about the turnovers to Muriel. I also was counting, just for the sake of it, the ball progression that he was trying to do, and he was kicking the ball like deep, trying to hit somebody, and it wasn't even close.
It just come back,
It was straight to the Orlando City player. So a couple just really wasteful balls forward, even though they didn't become dangerous.
Third goal, because when
third goal was the worst. That was
because he got a hand on it, very, very solid, hefty hand. And the issue is, the sign of big players is that they can either keep their team in the game or change the nature of a game with a single moment. And Ustari, for the second time against Orlando City, at a moment where Inter Miami needed him to make that save. It was 2-1. All wasn't lost. Maybe we could have gone on to lose regardless.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't all lost. Actually, they had some.
There was hope.
There was hope.
And as soon as he let that goal in, heads dropped. And I think if you are going to be the number one keeper for this team, you're going to be called upon at times, especially because our defense is not that good. And not once, but twice against Orlando, he has cost us a massive moment. And for me, that's why I thought he could have been the Heron That Flew North award, but
I do too.
I wanted to give him this award because I was being creative.
No. This is a great award.
Yeah.
Perfectly themed. I want to give you a little small applause, a golf clap for that one. It's a great
Thank
award. No, he was bad in this game. I'm sorry. I know people are saying he saved us from going down 6-1, but he's the reason. He's a big reason we were down 4-1. He got bailed out by 2 shots that hit the post. Like, it, he had one nice save in that game and a ton of just horrific moments. The third goal was terrible. That ball to Luis Muriel was terrible. Like, that was a really poor performance from Ustari. Now, I want to say, Ustari, I don't think this makes him a terrible goalkeeper. I think he's going to start against the Galaxy. He's going to start for the rest of the season. All of that's true. But this is about awards for this game, and he was really bad in this game. Okay. My next award is the Show Goes On.
The Show Goes On award. Well, obviously, we've had this. Let's just move on. Rodrigo de Paul?
You sounded like you were just going to nail it. And you just have no idea.
I have no idea. Well, okay. We've had this performance. Let's move on to the... Allende, because he's going to continue to play the next game as well. By the way, great song by Lupe Fiasco. Absolutely.
I'm glad you know the song because that is a big part of this award. That was a fiasco last night. And it all started when Jordi Alba turned the ball over in the midfield in the first minute of the game, and it led to a Luis Muriel opportunity. Here's the thing about Jordi Alba. He will be fine. I know that. I feel confident in that. I feel comfortable in that. He does this every once in a while where he has a game where he gets very sloppy. And the show will go on for him. And by the way, I thought this was representative of also Luis Suarez and Busquets and Rodrigo de Paul. All of them were like kind of poor in this game. And the show will go on for all of them. But that doesn't change the fact that it was a hit from a fiasco because that was so poor. So many opportunities that they just wasted. All 4 of them, but Jordi Alba included.
Well, I'm glad you gave him this award because I had another award for Jordi Alba, which I don't think I particularly liked. But he was a non-factor in this game, apart from that first contribution to Orlando's goal. I thought he just did not get involved offensively, wasn't doing much defensively either. And the award that I gave him was the hammer and the anvil because that means he was caught between the devil and the deep sea. A deer in the headlights, however many metaphors you want to use. He was just, I think, caught in his own mind whether he wants to defend or whether he wants to attack. He wasn't necessarily the offensive outlet. He wasn't necessarily required to attack either. So it was like, what was his role in this game? And I think that kind of summed up his entire evening yesterday.
Yeah, and by the way, I chose Jordi because that's how it started with a poor turnover from Jordi, but I also thought this was representative of all the big name players.
Yeah.
None of them played well in this game, in my opinion.
Completely agree. All right, my last award is the Only One Atlas Award.
The Only One Atlas Award is clearly an award for Tadeo Allende because he feels like he's got the world on his shoulders right now, and he is struggling with it mightily. And you want to remind Javier Mascherano, there's only one person that's supposed to carry the world on his shoulders. That's Atlas, not Tadeo Allende. Gosh, I nailed it.
You were so close to nailing it. You got the reference right. You got the metaphor right. You got the Greek figure right as well, but you just could not take it home. Only one Atlas means that there's only one person on this Inter Miami team who can carry the whole team on his shoulders, and that's Lionel Messi. When Lionel Messi got injured, we thought Rodrigo de Paul would be able to carry this team on his shoulders by himself. And unfortunately, yesterday's game shows that that's not true. I thought he tried, and he's still this was his first game in the MLS. He hasn't played against an MLS opponent, by the way. This was the first time he's gone up against the physicality of an MLS team. And of course, he's played 3 consecutive games, full 90 minutes. You can make excuses for that. But I think the narrative I want to use on this award is that he's not going to win you games by himself, and he's not going to solve all the problems. He's a phenomenal player, probably the second best player on this team. But if the structure is not right, if the players around him are not instructed to do their jobs properly, Rodrigo de Paul will not be able to win this game. Now, you can make an argument even Messi couldn't have won that game yesterday, and I would probably agree with you on that. But I think we might need to get away from this expectation that Rodrigo de Paul by himself can carry this team to victory, because I think there's a lot more to this Inter Miami team that we need to fix than just the midfield.
I will say on the rewatch, I thought he was better in the first half than I gave him credit for initially. Completely ghosted in the second half. Not like overall, it wasn't a positive performance, but it wasn't quite as bad in the first half. He's a midfielder, not a number 10. And so I think we should, to your point, remember that he should not be asked on a regular basis to carry the creative load. And that when you get creation from him, from the deeper role that he should be playing, that's a bonus, but you got to find other ways. You can't rely on that. And I totally agree. He is maybe one of like 2 or 3 players where I thought they weren't terrible. They just weren't there. So I wouldn't have given him an award because I thought there was a couple solid performances, some really meh performances, and then a bunch of really bad performances. But to your point and to your talking point, I agree. Like, I think we should consider him, if he's going to play as a 10, like a normal MLS number 10, not a star.
And Pep in the chat asks, who thought RDP could carry Miami, though? I did. Call me silly, but I thought in the absence of Lionel Messi, we could get away with having Rodrigo de Paul in. But maybe yesterday's game was an off night for everyone, so you can excuse that. But I genuinely thought that RDP could take us through. But oh well.
I think there's still about 5 players we should talk about in a little bit of depth. We'll skip awards, but Talasco Segovia, I thought had a solid performance. He was the one player I thought was better. Him and Frey were the 2 players I thought were better on the rewatch. He created 2 really good, solid opportunities. There was one moment in the first half where Luis Suarez takes a shot with his left foot. It's a little too soft to beat Gillespie, but it was a shot on goal, and that came from that was set up by Segovia. There was another moment where Segovia drags the defender to the left side, and he sneaks it past the defender to Allende, and Allende's in a position to take a shot, and he just has the worst first touch and loses it.
Awful.
So I actually thought Segovia was like pretty solid in this game, and I didn't necessarily feel as that way.
He just goes about his business. That's the thing with him. Like he's a very good player, and he has the IQ to find the spaces and everything. But when everything else around him is not working, then he's not really as effective either. Luis Suarez.
I thought Luis Suarez was more of a ghost than a bad player.
I love the fact you said that, because I had an award for him that had that exact same ghost reference.
Yeah.
I'm going to use it for another time.
Okay. He wasn't good. Yeah. He wasn't good. He did have some turnovers. He did have some wasted opportunities. But when we're talking about how Ustari played, how Falcon played, how Jordi Alba played, how Busquets played, like he was just not a relevant factor.
But here's the thing, right? If he could have become relevant, if he could have created opportunities up top, that could have taken away some of the defensive deficiencies that we had. And I think the game plan was expecting Suarez to take opportunities and create something, but Allende just did not click yesterday evening.
Maybe we should come back to this after we finish talking about some of these performances, but we talked about why it was such a disaster defensively. We didn't really talk about why it didn't work at all offensively. Let's come back to that after we talk about some of these players, because I agree with you. I think they really wanted to have an offensive performance. I thought they set out a formation and a lineup that said we want to get 3 goals in this game, and they didn't come close to it. That said, for Suarez, if he had scored that goal from halfway, and it was a really nice save from Gillespie,
man of the match.
It really would have been like a equalized at 2-2 kind of moment, and like it would have been anyone's
That
game.
just galvanizes everyone.
Exactly. But obviously it doesn't happen, and overall wasn't like I'm not standing up for him. Tadeo Allende. Now let's talk about Noah Allen first. I want to say
I was going to say
for last.
I was going to say, go on.
Noah Allen, I thought was actually pretty solid for like the first 80 minutes of the game. He had a couple poor moments at the end, and he had a couple poor moments in the very first 5 minutes or so, but was like largely solid, in my opinion.
His performance was average, but that was also a large part because of his defensive partner. I think he had to do a lot in terms of closing down the space, and they just did not work together in synergy.
I think it's the opposite, where Falcon was responsible for more and was not able to do it. Noah Allen had less to do and did more of it, of what he was supposed to do. So, like, I think I'm trending towards Falcon being much more liable for this performance. But listen, Noah Allen on that last goal, certainly the shot goes right through his legs. He thinks Pasalic is offside, so it's not an excuse, but it wasn't great. There's also a moment in the third or fourth minute where there's a cross in, and he leaps so high for it, but it just goes right over his head to Luis Muriel. But again, I thought for like 65 minutes, 70 minutes maybe, he was like pretty solid. That number just keeps coming down now that I'm remembering things, but yeah, I thought he was our best center back in this game.
Yeah, by a mile. We had to.
Well, no, Luan
one of them
played
we
30
gave the
minutes.
hair in that Fluno. Oh wow, we had two centre backs in this game, and Luhan.
And then Busquets we talked about earlier, and I think that's probably it except for Allende. Let's talk about Allende for a minute.
I actually purposely didn't give him an award because we're beyond talking about him. I don't want to bully him. He's not.
No, I'm back
well.
into it. I was out of it for a while because it was just so bad that I felt bad for him. Now I'm changing the subject to Mascherano. You gotta bench him.
Yeah, you gotta take him out.
It's no longer you should. You have to. It was the absolute worst performance he's ever had at Inter Miami in terms of the poor touches. Like I know people have always thought he's had poor touches. It's getting worse. It feels like it's getting worse every single game, and it's the worst it's ever been in this game. He had a moment where there's a breakaway opportunity, and it's not that he takes too hard of a touch, it's that he misses the ball. You're hurting Tadeo Allende. You are hurting him by making him go out there every single game.
And it's getting worse. His first touch is getting worse.
That's what I'm saying. He's getting worse.
Earlier, he would just shoot it out of the pitch and probably drag it out for a corner or something. Now he just shoots it out of the bloody park. Before you know it, he's going to shoot it out of the air.
Dude, no, he doesn't. He doesn't even take a touch that sets up a shot. He doesn't take shots anymore.
It's the touch. Forget about the shot. It's the touch. He touches it out of the park. No, it's bad. It's really bad. I don't know what to do with him. He needs to be benched. Fafa needs to start. He has to start.
Lamar says the radio guy said the footwork is footwork of a baby deer.
That's so funny.
No, I don't care who it is. If it's Messi, great. If it's Baltasar, great. If it's Fafa, great. If it's Kramaski, great. If it's Santi Morales, great. If it's a kid on the B team, great. Tadeo Allende cannot start, and here's why. And this is why I wanted to sit on him for a minute. Your absolute best team has Tadeo Allende in form. If not in the starting 11, a key piece off the bench. Like, he can be a weapon. He can change the game for you if you can use him properly, but he's not going to do that right now. And so you have the next 15 games to get him back in good form, and clearly playing him every single game is not the trick. He's getting worse. And so he needs to take a seat on the bench, earn his way back in, and when he does, he will have real confidence, and he will be a real factor for this team that can help Inter Miami win games in the playoffs when it matters most. But if you just keep running him out, he's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse, and it will make you have a useless player come playoff time. And that's the thing I don't want, is him to be this come playoff time, because I believe there's a player there. And so now it's Mascherano. You're failing your player here. You got to sit him because he's getting worse. His confidence is on the floor. You have to figure out how to fix this, and it's not. I'm just going to keep putting him in the starting lineup. Clearly, that's not working.
So of course he's starting the next game.
He can't start the next game.
He can't start the next game.
He can't.
Scotty, listen to me, man. He is starting the next game. Okay? You gotta understand this is happening. We have no control over it. We just get on the mic and talk. You and I are not picking the starting 11 no matter how much we want to.
No, I'm serious.
He is starting the next game.
He can't start. He can't start. He can't. Okay. For real though, I do want to say there also comes a point, and maybe this is taking this a little aggressively, but there comes a point where, listen, every single player on that team sees Tadeo Allende. They see him. They see what he's doing. They're watching film on the games. They're rewatching the games. They're watching from the sideline. And the guys on the sideline that aren't playing, whether it's Fafa Biko, and listen, he's a veteran. Maybe he understands the dynamics a little bit better. But if you're Kramaski, if you're Baltasar, if you're, Alan Obando or Santi Morales or Leo Alfonso or whatever, like you're looking at this guy and you're thinking, how the heck is that on the field and I can't sniff minutes? And you're going to, like, as a coach, you're going to start losing faith from your players if they're not getting opportunities. I mean, we have Benjamin Kramaski playing right back so that Tadeo Allende can trip over the ball and kick it to the opposition every time he touches
Segovia
it.
before he took out Allende.
I know.
By the way, we should have a wager going as to how many games Segovia finishes 490. 0. That's my answer. He's gonna finish 0 games this season.
But the other thing, every single time he gets taken off, he looks upset that he's getting taken off. So he's never asking to be taken off. It's not like, no Allen back from injury, he's getting tired in the 60th minute. Like,
there's no reason for him to be off. He's fully fit.
No, listen. I came to the realization long ago that Javier Mascherano does not have a good eye for talent because he clearly sees Allende as a better player, or he wouldn't be playing him this much. This is the other thing, he thinks he needs Allende's pace. You can win games of soccer without a pacey player over the top. Like, it's possible. And so you need to figure out how to do that. Today, Allende, he needs to say, I'm serious, he can't start anymore. Not this next game. He can't. He just can't. If he's in the starting lineup, I'm not coming to the pregame show. Okay,
I would love to see your reaction when he's in the starting lineup.
Okay. I don't know what else to say. Let's get to the standings, because that was a consequential game for the table. Inter Miami drops to 6th. They were in 5th. They're now behind Orlando City, Columbus, Nashville, Cincinnati, and the Philadelphia Union. They have 3 games in hand on most of those teams. Columbus also only 2 games in hand on Columbus. If they win all 3 of their games in hand, they'll tie Philadelphia. But remember, they're going to play more games than any other team over the course of the rest of the regular season. And they don't look great without Messi. So
hopefully Messi's going to be back soon.
Yeah, but is he going to play every single one of those games and the Leagues Cup and then still be fit and ready to go for the MLS Cup playoffs? Like,
of course.
Of course he will. You're right. He will.
Yeah, of course.
But
I don't know why you doubt that.
No, I don't doubt that. He will absolutely play every game. Anything else on your mind? Maybe we could get a couple weeks ago, we were getting pretty frustrated with the team and the direction, and then they just went and signed Rodrigo de Paul, and that really got us back into it. Maybe they'll just sign another star center back, or
no, you know what it is. Every time this team plays a tournament, we're happy. Every time they're in a tournament, we're happy. Every time they play MLS games, we're miserable. So how about they just stick to tournament games and not play any of the MLS games?
Well, that would be great if they had won any of them, but so far they're overdue.
You're cracking me up today, man. This is what we've come to. Hey, listen, this Inter Miami team has proven that they can have this poor result, and then the next game they can probably bring it back. So Here's to hoping we bring it back in the
By
next
the way,
game against LA Galaxy. I think that's who we're
Yeah,
playing.
we play the Galaxy on Saturday.
Oh my God.
I will
can you
remind
believe-
everyone, all those games Messi's going to play, he's also going to go on Argentina duty. So it's just a house of cards, and you hope Messi is really good at building house of cards. And if he's not, it's all going to crumble.
Yeah,
And
every time it
we're
crumbles,
gonna-
he just builds it back. There you go. That's simple.
Yeah, except there's another trophy opportunity gone and another year of Messi gone.
We're playing Galaxy next weekend, right?
Saturday, yes.
We're going to go up against Gabriel Peck and Painso. Oh, man.
They're the worst team in the NFL. They're the worst team in the league. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
They-
But we also have Gonzalo Lujan. So let's just sit on that for a second.
I thought we were having fun at the end here.
Uh,
The LA Galaxy are the second worst team in the league. No, sorry. They're the worst team in the league. They're 3 points away from the second worst team. And so I hear what you're saying. They do have Gabriel Peck. They do have Joseph Painsil, but they have 16 points. So, like, there's if we lose that game, oh my goodness, we're going to have a problem. And then they're going to win the League's Cup game, and we're going to be back into it. So maybe it'll be fine. Okay, Saur. We're going to be back on Wednesday. We're going to talk about Drake Callender and Ustari and the goalkeeping situation. Hopefully there's some fun, juicy transfer rumors we can talk about. But if not, we will just talk about the comings and goings for the midweek episode. And we will never think about this game ever again. Sound good?
absolutely. Orlando.
All right. Yeah. Any final words?
Let's put this behind us. I was dreading this post-game show. At least it's over now. And I can go back to having my dinner and going to bed and then forgetting this ever happened. So thank you for joining us, guys. It's been great.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we will see you next time. But until then, have a lovely night. Have a lovely week. And don't burn the popcorn. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.